Hey everybody, welcome back to Fix Your B.S. podcast, where B.S. stands for belief systems. We are interviewing another amazing individual who has done some amazing things. Today we are with Emily, who is a multi-passionate entrepreneur starting her first brick and mortar business at the age of 20, which is awesome, by the way. She's a founder of the Paper and Plan Co., which we need to work together on, Fix Your B.S. She twice published cookbook of the Fresh Farmhouse Kitchen and The Saints Plate and Sinner's Dinner, which are also amazing. Author of Relationships First Leadership book and creator of Fit Home and Health Co. She's also co-host of Curious Me podcast, the founder of the Women in Business Workshop, which is where we ran into each other last, and COO of 44/7 Media and which I always say this incorrectly.
RFA.
I always want to say a REIT, which I'm sure you get. RFA Syndicate. And co-founder of Freedom Reads Book Club, one-on-one business coach, speaker, all-around amazing individual. It's Emily Frisella. Go ahead. It's how it goes wild.
Add some sound in.
Yes, exactly. We're going to throw those in there. So thank you for coming onto the podcast. As you can see, everybody watching and listening, if you're listening, you can't see it, but I am actually 64 stories high in Georgia. And it is a new backdrop. Normally I have some guitars behind me. It's really cool, but I love your backdrop. I love the cleanliness of it. Yeah, I know, right? But so thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it. Let's dive into all things Emily. We got to talk about a lot, your businesses, your passions, your dogs. We got to talk about your dogs.
Yes, of course. Priority. All right. Well, yeah, get into it. What do you want to know? Ask me.
Well, the first thing I love to ask, and this is something that I love talking about, is success, because a lot of people have a lot of definitions of it, but I want to know what Emily Frisella's definition of success is.
My definition of success is impacting others to reach their own true potential, which is actually a sliding scale. You know, everybody wants to just they get to a certain peak in their life, and I think that's it. You know, that's that's the best it's going to be. That's not true. Like, the harder you push and chasing, quote, success, whatever that looks like as people define it. It can be monetary, it can be just the way you live, it can be how you contribute back, it can be whatever you want it to be. But it's something where as you, push towards that and you want more of that, you realize I'm capable of a whole lot more. So success to me is feeling sound in my decisions, having great relationships with people, and making some money along the way to where I can help to impact others and give back in a big way.
What an amazing definition of success. That was awesome. Fantastic. It's so interesting that you say too, collaboration is the new currency is what we've heard. I've heard that over and over from multiple different people. And like you said, build relationships. I have built some of the amazing relationships from doing a couple things. Number one is making decisions, being very intentional about those decisions, about where I'm going to go, who I'm going to spend time with, and then showing up with intention. So those three things. And a lot of people make a decision, they're like, I'm going to go, but then they kind of shy back, or they just go to seminar after seminar thinking the seminar is going to do, but the relationships are what's most important.
Yeah. And I think that's one, my husband and I, we call those people success zombies. They want to attend every seminar. They want to, make sure that they're, they post their badges that they were at this seminar. They want to chase all this stuff. They want to follow everybody. They want to repost their content. They want to, but the thing is, and then they allude to themselves that they're actually doing that when all they're doing is just regurgitating things or reposting things. They're not actually taking actual steps every single day to reach whatever their success is. And they need to make sure they've taken the time to define what that is for them, because otherwise you just are at the sea of entrepreneur BS that's happening, not belief system, but actually the real BS. I don't know if I can curse on here or not, but it's, they get caught up in that and they don't do anything. They just become this hamster wheel. You know what I mean? So it's actually, people, they have to dive in. They have to realize, what do I actually want? And it's going to be scary. When you first start a business, you don't know what a KPI, an ROI, a P&L, you don't know any of that stuff. When I first started my first business, I was 20 years old. I knew nothing. My dad was an entrepreneur and I thought it was somehow going to be in my DNA and I was just going to be good at it. So my ego was too big at the time to realize hey, I need to ask for help. And I learned a lot of hard lessons by being stubborn and thinking I knew it all. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's about reaching out to other entrepreneurs, other people that are doing what you're wanting to do. Figure out, hey, what did you do here? Or what can I do to prevent this? And that's one thing that I love about with my coaching business. I get to help everybody else work on their businesses to avoid mistakes that I've made in 20 years as an entrepreneur.
And you know what? That is such alignment with what Fix Your B.S. is all about. And it's so funny because every time I talk to a successful person, they have the same principles. And that's what that is all about. It's the principles. And I love that you're talking about people asking them questions to where they start to understand how to compress time instead of making all the mistakes and going through all that heartache and all that pain. They can look into someone else's experience and go, oh, well, they did it that way and it was successful. Let me model, which Brandon Dawson talks about the 4 M's: model, mimic, master, multiply. And that is so important. Model, mimic, master, multiply.
Yes. Yeah, because if you're able to, shorten that learning curve and drop your ego and ask other people, the thing is, you're on a time machine for success then, because if you ask me, oh, what about this, I can tell you, and you're going to avoid all the mistakes I did, which is going to, get you to where you want to be, years faster, not a year faster, years faster.
And, it's funny, you talk about you doing personal coaching. I help with people now and do group coaching, personal coaching as well. But my success really started when I made a decision to work with a personal coach. And, it was a few $1,000s. And at the time it was like, oh my gosh, can I do it? Am I going to be able to? But yeah, what I tell people all the time about that is, what is your time worth? Because if I can take a few $1,000s and compress 10 years, 5 years, or even 1 year, is it worth $3,000, $5,000, even $10,000, $15,000 to do that? Because I can tell you, after investing hundreds of thousands, it's worth the time, just to compress it. I'd rather be where I want to be next year, not 15 years
right.
ago.
And people need to think of the ROI on that, because they think of ROI of straight money to money instead of cost of opportunity and time. So there is an ROI when you invest yourself into actually learning and implementing, because as we all know, like, knowledge isn't power. It's actually actionable knowledge that you put into place is what is going to bring you power.
Thank you. In my talks, literally in my talks, I say knowledge is, and everybody goes, power. And I go, that's BS. That's BS. Knowledge without action is nothing. So knowledge is potential power if you take action on it. And so many people get frozen on that part, action. Well, what are people going to think?
Right.
What are people going to say? What if I don't know myself anymore? What if I don't like myself? Well, if you're going to grow, some part of you is going to, it's the way it is.
Yeah. And I always, people are always worried about, they're haters. Look, you don't have haters. People always want to say they have haters. Look, unless they're like poisoning your dog, lighting your house on fire, doing something like, they're not a hater. They're just someone that's jealous. They're jealous of you. You know what I mean? And jealousy is not a good look. But the thing is that they let those people, and I always tell people that, like my clients that are worried about that, I'm like, the people you're worried about are the people that are asking their mom to heat up a Hot Pocket and drop it in the basement for them while they play Nintendo. You know what I mean? Like, these people are not doing shit because that's why they have the time online to come and troll people. Like, if I don't like something, I know you're exactly the same. If you don't like something online, you just keep scrolling. You don't stop and say, I don't agree with this because, no, you just move on with your life.
Yeah. I was listening to a comedian the other day and he was talking about that exact thing. He goes, I have about 8 million followers on Twitter and I tweeted something. And he goes, people took the time out of their day to comment that they didn't like what I had tweeted and rebuttal to it. And he's like, do they understand that I have 8 million followers and I did not direct that toward any one person? That was just me talking. And if you don't like it, you can just go right past it.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't like it anymore. Okay. Just keep moving.
Click on unfollow. You're on my turf. I'm not on your turf. So just click on unfollow and you don't have to break anymore.
It is so crazy. So let's talk about for a second. We've got to talk about, I've been watching your Instagram story for a while now, and I see these 2 adorable puppies on there, like every day. So let's talk about them because obviously they're, and I love what you called them. I believe it was yesterday. And if you guys don't follow Emily right now, you need to follow her and her husband, Andy. They're doing some amazing things. Love their content. They speak truth, like real truth. And if you're following me, you need to follow them. But you called them, what did you call them? Farm bears? Is that what it was?
I don't know what I call, farm dogs. I don't know what I call them.
I said farm bears or farm something. And I was a farm bear. Stuff like that.
I really call them their real names. I call them like dumb names all the time. But yeah, they're just, they're like our kids. They're 2 English bulldogs. They're going to be 9 this year. And they're just funny. And, I work from my house and I have a studio here. And then I also are in the other building. And then I work at our headquarters in Fenton here, that where's the old Chrysler building was at. And so I'm kind of bebop around. So I'm home a lot, and they're always like around because bulldogs are like Velcro dogs. Like they're always around you all the time. So I just post them a lot because honestly, I'm just like, I don't do many stories of myself talking or anything because I'm like, you want to see my face, just go on Instagram or my feed, you know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. Wow.
So like, you know, I think you're the same. It's like you just get so caught up in the day-to-day of work and running your businesses. I don't have time to like sit there and like do stories all the time or like chit chat and things like that. I'm just like kind of like point A to point B every day.
Yeah. Well, I've got two, right? So when you have a couple businesses, you're like, okay, well, I got to run this one and is necessary. And they're like, you need to post on your social more. And I'm like, well, I'm doing the best I can with the social. That's why I have a team to help me out. That's all I can say.
No, that's how we are. Like, that's why I mainly just rely on stories. I only post, you know, maybe once a month or something, just because of everything we've got going on and all our balls in the air and everything you know, it's just not, sometimes it's like, you know, you almost don't have time to like, just stop and really like think about what you want to share. And I will never like create posts not in the moment because they're not as great if you're not feeling what you want to post, because they always do better, you know, on social media when people can read the passion in your words. And when you just try to like write a bunch of stuff and schedule it and also like, no, that's not the way to do it.
Well, it doesn't match. It doesn't flow with everything else that's going on in your life in that moment.
Yeah.
So if you write something today and schedule it out 30 days from now, it doesn't flow with what is happening, especially when you're talking about the personal story. You know, when you're writing a personal story, people can feel like this is disconnected in some way, shape, or form, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, also just for your listeners too, is like, scheduling posts is never a good idea with those like third-party apps and stuff. Like if you're trying to grow your social, do not do that because it can really like hinder your growth that way because it can pick up that it is from a third party.
Yeah, I always tell people and then you might agree with this. If you don't, please let me know because I'm all about just getting people's opinions. But I always tell people all the time, there really is only one shortcut to success. And that is learning from other people that have already had the success that you want and modeling and mimicking what they do and how they do. That is literally the only shortcut. It is not, I'm going to purchase a bunch of likes or comments or shares. Your brand is more important than a click or a like or a share. And when I talk to people that ask me questions about, well, what should I post and when should I post and all that, it's like, look, I'm still trying to figure it out too. So don't think I'm some sort of guru. However, I know the first step is to take action. I know because you'll start to learn from, oh, that post didn't work, or that doesn't make sense, or what are other people that have the life or have the following that I want? What are they doing? And how can I model that? And so, you know, but you got to take action. You can't just look at their things and get caught up and 3 hours later, you haven't taken any action, you know?
Right. And I think it's a lot. People are, again, back to like, they're scared to take that first step is like, you know, you are going to have more praise for your post than you are criticism, because you need to build a community around you. If you post something and someone doesn't like it and they're harassing you, just block them or tell people to unfollow you or whatever it is, because they're going to be a lot more people that agree with you than don't, you know, and that's the community that you want. That's what you want. And that's what you want for growth. And as far as like watching other people, what they're doing, you can see their styles and stuff. But I feel like my opinion on that is it's important that you don't mirror them, because what happens are these people are years down the road than you. And they're always going to be ahead of you. So if you're trying to copy what they're doing now, you're never going to catch up because they're already on to plan D and you're still working on plan A. Therefore, you're behind. So like a lot of that applies too when people want to copy or do what other companies are doing or whatever. Those companies are way far behind. Like I now have a new company starting this fall that I've been working on for 4 years, but nobody knows. So when it comes out, people try to copy it, but they don't know the 4 years I put into it behind the scenes, build it. You know what I mean? So it's always important. You have to jump in your own self. And I hate the word authentic and transparent because I feel like it's just overused right now. But it's just, you know, you have to speak to your voice and don't try to be someone else. I agree with you, Greg, as far as like, see how they do it. Like, what time are they posting? What style are they posting? All that kind of stuff. Make sure you engage in those posts, because the people that are following their posts, if you leave a comment, they might be like, wait, who's this person? They click on you, they find you. So
exactly. And I'm going to clarify too, because something you said, I need to clarify, because people might try to, you just said model somebody that's way ahead of them. What I mean by model is the person that is as successful as you want to be. They have done things that have left clues of success. You need to figure out where they started and what they were doing so you can follow from the beginning all the way to where they are. not model what they're doing right now. So that's very good. I'm glad you.
I think, yeah, we're all on the same page, speaking the same language.
Well, it's funny. When I started redoing my podcast because of the launch of the book and all the other things I'm doing with this, it's funny. I was like, who do I want on this show? Like who is the type of person that is going to match? I wanted successful people that match the 5 pillars that I talk about in Fix Your B.S, which are relationships, financially, career, faith, and health. Those 5 things. And you modeled, you really matched all of those. But it's funny that the people I started running into, once I made that decision, I said, this is who I want, put it out there in the universe. And then I start running into people. And literally, it just had to be so surreal. And I'm going to tell this story. I hope you don't mind, because I think everybody would like to hear it.
Yeah.
But people probably don't know this, but we graduated from the same high school. Yeah. And it's funny because I literally have not hung out with anybody from my high school in like 20 years. And so I was at near Busch Stadium, right next to this Busch Stadium, and I had just competed in a fantasy Cardinals baseball camp. And I come waltzing in, I'm all dirty, sweaty, whatever. And here's Emily, and she goes, Greg? And I was like, uh-oh, I must be in trouble. What is happening? Uh-oh, somebody knows my name. And so I would like to know, you were there doing a conference, Women in Business Conference, which I looked up afterwards. I had never heard before then, but amazing conference. So all the ladies watching this show, if you're in business, entrepreneur, want to meet people that are in business, this is somebody you need to look up as well. But you were getting ready for this conference, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go. I wish I could stay and chat. I'll look you up on Instagram, whatever.
Yeah.
And but I would love to know what your thought process, the moment you saw me walking in and I'm in a Cardinals uniform.
No, it's just like, we just look at, because you look exactly, so we actually graduated together in the same class too. Right. We graduated together and we hadn't seen each other in 22 years. So, you walked in and I was like, wait, because, you were just all in the blue uniform. And I was like, it kind of was like, oh, okay. No big deal, whatever. Because we have Cardinals players that train at our facility and, football guys that come in all the time. So I was like looking, just like, I knew like, oh, maybe this is one of the players that have been to headquarters before to train. And so anyway, and then I looked at your face because you look exactly the same from high school. And I was like, no way. And then you back your jersey said your purse Leon. I was like, okay. And I was like, Greg. And you looked and I was like, just cracking up. And I told my security guard that was with me, waiting for the elevator. I was like, oh my gosh. I went to high school with him. He's like, no way. I was like, yeah. I was like, such a small world. I hadn't seen him in so long. And I was busy. You were busy. So I was like, hey, yeah, Cole, great to see you. It was like, we maybe chatted, 1 minute? And then we were off. But it was just like so wild. And we caught up a little bit on socials. So.
I mean, you look, I felt like she had to be like, what the hell is going on right now?
Anyway. No, it didn't even faze me because no, just like, it was just like so weird because like I never see people from high school like in St. Louis ever. And it was pretty funny.
What's really funny about it is both of us, obviously we graduated from a small town and we went out to do things, big things. We wanted to do great big things. And that's just a very rare quality in general for most people.
Yeah.
Most people kind of get into life and they settle. And I think that's the biggest travesty in life is that people settle. I just can't stand the fact that
living by the list. We call it the checklist. People live by the list.
Yes.
Graduate high school, go to college, get married, have kids. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Raise the kids. And then what? Play golf every now and then. I don't know. But, but no, it's just so funny. So I had made that decision and lo and behold, we run into each other. So it just, I think the world works in mysterious.
It really does. Yeah. That's so cool.
I'm so excited to hear about, I don't know if you can announce it yet, but I'm so excited to see what happens with this business that's coming out.
Oh yeah. I can't announce it just yet. But it's just been, just something I've been kind of working on and, really, because I think, so my husband and I collectively own and operate 11 businesses. And so our bandwidth it can get very minimal, so it's something I've really, and I think this is also advice for anybody else looking for the BS, like the average millionaire has 7 streams of income and stuff. Well, you have to be able to be 100% into one and have the systems and the operations running before you even think of doing a secondary one. So anybody that's new or young in their entrepreneur journey, keep that in mind. But I've been really waiting. I've been wanting to do this. And I was like, okay. And I weigh the bandwidth because I don't want to do anything half-assed. You know what I mean? Like I want to be able to go all in. And the 4-year mark was just like, okay, now at this time, I will be able to, so I had to project my bandwidth for projects, for the businesses. And this is the time that it worked out to happen. So, just like, it's something that I could have probably done it in like a year or two, but I had to wait and weigh the bandwidth of what could I actually give to make sure I could do it 100%. So,
yeah. And that's what I love too, is one of the books that I really love is The One Thing. And I read that a few years ago, and it really made me, and my wife actually, I was doing multiple different things, but they were all kind of up in the air a little bit at the time. She's like, listen, focus on one thing. And that's what advice I give now to people all the time is focus on one thing, get it up and running, get it going. The guy that is running this conference, his name's Matthew Luke, the one I'm at right now. He actually was coaching me at the time, and he goes, look, you don't get paid until something gets completed. Like you don't make money on something until it's complete and it's done and it's worth working. And then you can process, write down the processes that you had to make that. And I, that was a moment of like, oh yeah, duh, you can't do everything. So 7 streams of income, that's great, but work on one and get it really secure.
Yeah.
And then, then you add another business or you add another something onto that kind of ties to it. So then you can keep your eye on both, not one way over here and one way over here. Yeah, you got to have them in the same area. So
yeah,
I think I love that advice.
It is super important. And I wonder, this is just me, just thinking here. And I don't know if that 7 streams came from, because I've coached new entrepreneurs that are just trying to get started. And if anybody is an entrepreneur, it can be a year or a couple of years before you make any money because you keep reinvesting in your business. Or you're working on, you're just working on projects, the money isn't coming yet. So it's something where, and I've had this happen with one of my clients, is that they want to continue to work on something that's not paying them yet, but they want to do something else thinking the money is going to come quicker for them. So they'll have some more money to dump in this one. But then what happens is the secondary thing takes just as much work. So now they're working like crazy in both, not making any money because they can't put in 100% to either one to actually, like you said, complete the project to get paid. And then it's like this vicious cycle of like, well, let me try a third one then. Now maybe I'll make money there. And they end up stringing themselves out so much. It takes them so much longer to make any money because they cannot give themselves 100%. So I think a lot of this crap online with the entrepreneur world is a lot of fluff. It's not true. You're in it. I'm in it. We know what entrepreneurship actually is. And it takes a lot more than what people lead on to be. And it is like an insane, weird life. Like, why do you choose to do this? Like, why do you choose to work 8 million hours a week? And like, everything's relying on you, but you wouldn't have it any other way. So I think it's really just, focusing and knowing it's going to take your time and take your energy, and it's going to be a little bit before you see it pay out. And I just think people aren't quite prepared for that whenever you got to put in
the time and energy and effort. There's really no shortcuts. You just got to, even if you model someone and what they've done and how they did it, you still have to put the effort in, and it's going to take time as you put the effort in and you build that brand or build that name. And that is so important because we live in a right now society. I want to be rich now. I want to be fit now. I want to be thin now. I want to be up the corporate ladder now. I want to have my business going now. It's like, you got to put in the time and energy and effort and figure it out over time, but you got to pay attention while you're doing that. That will help you speed it up. But yeah, that is so true.
I think social media is to blame for that because people that are renting private jets, renting cars, they're renting this lifestyle to put on this whole like facade of like, oh, I live this great lifestyle. I'm a successful entrepreneur, when really they did a 1-hour photo shoot on a private jet. You know what I mean? And that's what that is there for. It's like, that's a false reality for people. So then people aren't successful right away and they get down and they just want to give up because they're like, well, such and such is only been doing it in a year. They've got a private jet. And you don't know what the reality is unless you actually see the tangible things that person has sitting in their house or parked in their garage or whatever it is. And I just think social media just paints this false picture for people. And it's upsetting because a lot of people go all in and they sacrifice a lot thinking they'll spend their whole life savings. And then they don't realize it takes a long time. It took me 4 years before I made any money because I was busy. Like I was reinvesting, I was reprinting, I was doing, you know what I mean? I did so much stuff and it's going to take time. So just know that's part of the deal. You have to be prepared.
Yeah. And I hope people listen to that because that is such a huge point. I was on a show the other day, a podcast and a radio show. And they asked me, because the book's coming out next month, they said, how long did it take you to write the book? And I said, it took me 4 months to physically write it. It took me 15 years to figure out the information to put in it.
Yeah.
And so I've been writing that book for 15 years.
Right.
And people don't realize that. So it'll be an overnight success. Oh, it's a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I had to go through some pain for 15 years to figure it out to where I can have some value that, like my wife said on the way down here, she said, refining that diamond to, you had this lump of coal and you had to, press it and refine it into something that is valuable. And then you can put it down and now it's valuable to the community. And that's how you do it. So I love that you're saying that because, man, that is such a rampant problem right now. Oh, I want to make $1 million next year. Okay. I mean, that's possible, but it's not likely in how business works.
Right.
So let's get real and let's start putting we want to make $1 million next year. Great. Let's set that goal. And then let's pull it back to where you are and figure out what the steps need to happen to get to that. And people generally realize, it might take long.
And we always tease that it's like, or not tease, we always just point out to people, they're like, if they say like, oh, you guys are this or that or whatever it is, or like, oh, your book, you sold so many copies, you must be like, well, actually, I always just tell them like, no, that's back pay. And I relate it to like professional athletes, like baseball players, or let's say Patrick Mahomes, you get a $400 million contract. Well, he's been practicing since he's been 6 years old for that. So you think about all those years of time he's put in to make that. So like, it's back pay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you really think about it, and people don't realize, like, again, the time you put in, the stress, the anguish, all the stuff that goes in is the mess of entrepreneurship that you love. But it's such a, like, it's entrepreneurship is like a toxic relationship. It takes everything from you, walks all over you, but for some reason you still come back.
It's like, I don't know if you play golf at all or anything, but when you're on, I like golfing, but I'm an amateur. I'm not great at it. I play just enough to mess around and have fun, but not enough to get better at it. Okay.
Yeah.
But every round, there's at least a couple times where you hit the ball so pure that you're like, that felt amazing. I want to do that every time. And that's what entrepreneurship is.
Right.
It's like you try something, it didn't work, you pull back. Oh, you put something into well, that didn't work. But I learned from it. And then you hit one so pure. You're like, yes, that was awesome. And then you get your back pay. And then you're like, okay, I want to do that again. And then you try something, you're like, well, maybe that didn't work so much. But the cool thing is that the more things that you try and learn from, the more correct decisions you can make into the future. So the more of those pure shots that you can hit. And I think that's what you're doing with Andy right now. You guys are hitting some pure shots, which is fantastic.
We're trying, but that's the thing is, like, you don't always see the shots that don't work either. So it's just, that's true things too. So, but yeah, it's like I think you gain confidence, you learn what works, and then you can implement and copy those systems from one company or business industry to the other and tweak it a little bit to, that's what, like in our RTA Syndicate, we do our calls, and it might be someone ask a Q&A, let's say about a roofing company. Well, it's you, and this is something that all entrepreneurs and people need to learn from, is when you're in a conversation with people that maybe aren't in your industry, you need to listen, because everyone knows something that you don't. So if let's say I'm a roofer and I ask a question and somebody's talking about the process or what I can do to fix it with a customer service thing, it's your job and what you should be looking for as an entrepreneur. Like, how can I implement that thought process in my business? Like, I'm not a roofer. I'm a nurse practitioner. How can I make that work in the practice that I work within to make my customers better and X, Y, Z? You know what I mean? So it's always looking and seeking out information from others and being able to twist it and implement it into your own world.
And businesses are, the structure of business is similar across anything. It doesn't matter. One of my mentors, Brandon Dawson, he's doing this in multiple different verticals. He's got one business system and he is implementing it in multiple different verticals, because the verticals are different niches, So like roofer, like you said, orthodontist, whatever. He's got like 20 of them now, HVAC, blah, blah, blah. But the business side is still similar. So when somebody asks a question outside of their niche, still listen to it, because it's still a business question.
Exactly.
And you're going to learn something from it. But that drives me crazy when people tune out. Oh, that doesn't apply to me. How do you know? You didn't even listen. Like, you got to pay attention and listen.
Well, or they think that they're not far enough in their journey yet, or they surpass that. So where they tune out. But like, you may not have been as far ahead as that person is, but you're going to get there at some point. So you need to listen so you can prepare. And again, maybe shave some time off of your learning curve. Or if you're past that, maybe listen to the person that's a little bit younger in onto their entrepreneurship journey, because, you may have gone so far past it where you forget the little details. And I always say the dollars are in the details. Are you writing customer thank you cards? Are you sending out quarterly little thank yous to certain people randomly here and there? Because to be able to build those relationships, everything is built on relationships. Word of mouth is obviously the best marketing than anything else. And people seem to bypass all that and just go straight for their ads and their big things instead of like,
write the perfect Facebook ad. Okay.
Yeah. Or they really paid attention to the customer that's spending $10,000 instead of $10. What if that $10 customer is the son of someone that's going to spend $10 million with you, but you treated him like not as great as the $10,000 customer? You know what I mean? There's so much in entrepreneurship that are like little nuances and caveats that you have to learn as you go. But it's honestly treating everybody exactly the same, giving them all like 100% customer satisfaction, taking care of people, no matter what industry you're in.
And that's so important. In fact, I've learned a couple things. I'm like thinking in my head, oh man, I need to go back to my team and we need to do this a little different and that a little better. So I'm gonna be texting them tomorrow. It's Saturday and all, but let's you got to do this stuff. But
yeah.
Well, Emery, any final thoughts before we hop off here? I really appreciate you being on this, and I hope that the people that are listening or watching get a ton of value, because they need to watch it a couple times. And there's so many little nuggets within this 45-minute program that if they listen to it a few times and then come back maybe a year later and listen to it again, they will pull little things out, because you have a lot of businesses that are very successful. I'm working on a few that are obviously growing as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get to where you guys are and try to, we have to have a little bit of a battle.
All right.
I think so. I'm very competitive. I like, competition.
So high. Let me my knuckles here and get ready.
Oh, let's go. But anyway, any final thoughts? Anything you'd like to say right before we hop off of here?
I know this is gonna sound really cliche and maybe like a little like cheesy, but it really is just staying true to yourself, your values and your morals. Make sure you set core values for yourself and within your company to live by those. I have my 9 core values posted in my studio and our headquarters, and we are all of my entire team on all of my teams for different businesses. We're all aligned with those, and that's actually how we course correct and everything else. So somebody messes up, I'm like, hey, which core value is this? Like this is what we do. You accept responsibility or whatever it is. And we learn and train by that. So I think one thing that every entrepreneur needs to do that's something very important is to set your core values to live by, train your team on that. You have a monthly meeting on it, you review them, everybody understands them, because with that collectively, it's the best way to build a very, very solid culture that is nearly unshakable in your businesses.
Man, that right there is such a golden nugget that if people just take that right there and implement it, I hope they listen to this whole thing, because sometimes the best nuggets are always right there at the end. So Emily, I really appreciate you once again. Congratulations on all your success. Congratulations on all your failures as well, because you learned from that. Well done.
You don't have the wins without the failures.
That's right. And I look forward to working with you guys in the future. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you very much. For me, this is Dr. G with Fix Your B.S, where B.S stands for Belief Systems. Thank you for watching once again and listening, obviously. And we will see you on the next episode.